All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a genuinely fascinating piece of ancient Buddhist text called the Kevatta Sutta. We're going to explore this awesome debate that essentially pits flashy, supernatural powers against the quiet, rigorous transformation of the human mind. It is a brilliant psychological exploration, all wrapped up in a highly entertaining narrative.
So, think about this for a second. If you could pull off a literal miracle just to prove your beliefs, like, say, levitating or reading someone's mind, would you actually do it? I mean, it's pretty tempting, right? We all kind of want an easy, flashy way to win arguments, prove we're right, or build a massive following. And as we'll see, that exact temptation was just as prevalent thousands of years ago as it is today.
Here's how we're breaking this down today. First, the demand for miracles. Second, the 3 kinds of miracles. Third, the path of instruction. Fourth, a cosmic wild goose chase. And finally, the ultimate answer.
Okay, Section 1. The demand for miracles, or a marketing problem in ancient Nalanda.
To really get this text, we've got to set the scene. We're in the booming, prosperous ancient city of Nalanda, and we meet this guy, Kevatta. Now, Kevatta essentially marches up to the Buddha with a straight-up marketing pitch. He says, display a miracle of psychic power so that Nalanda would, to an even greater extent, have faith. It's kind of hilarious because his logic is just so corporate. He's looking at this massive, wealthy city and thinking, hey, if you just get one of your monks to do a few magic tricks, fly around, walk on water, your follower count is going to absolutely explode. And he pushes this idea not just once, but 3 separate times.
Moving on to Section 2, 3 kinds of miracles, or the setup and the knockdown.
Now here's the kicker. The Buddha doesn't actually deny that these supernatural abilities exist. Instead, he sorts them into 3 very specific buckets: psychic power, telepathy, and instruction. He totally acknowledges that sure, some monks might be able to multiply their bodies, walk right through solid mountains, or read people's minds, which sounds amazing, doesn't it? But then he hits Kevatta with his brilliant setup and knockdown argument. He points out a massive, fatal flaw. Imagine a believer sees a monk literally flying and runs to tell a skeptic. What's the skeptic going to say? They're just going to roll their eyes and say, oh, that's just the Gandhari magic charm, or that's just the Manika telepathy charm, because it looks exactly like a cheap parlor trick. The Buddha says he is literally horrified, humiliated, and disgusted by those first 2 kinds of flashy miracles.
Which brings us to Section 3, the path of instruction. Substance over flash.
So if flying is out, what's the actual miracle? Well, it starts with getting back to basic virtue and ditching what the text calls wrong livelihoods. The Buddha explicitly lays out that his monks absolutely cannot make a living by interpreting comets, reading fortunes, performing blood sacrifices, or, and this is definitely my personal favorite, reading the marks on cloth that's been chewed on by mice. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. These were the actual popular superstitions of the time. By completely dropping these dramatic but ultimately empty side hustles, the practitioner actually lays the groundwork for real, deep internal transformation.
Because the true miracle, it's not some instant, flashy trick. It is a rigorous step-by-step psychological rebuild. It kicks off with step 1, basic virtue and sense restraint. Basically, living a clean, simple, ethical life. That leads right into step 2, abandoning the hindrances, which are those nasty mental roadblocks like anger or laziness. Clear those out, and you hit step 3, the 4 jhanas. These are states of incredibly deep, blissful concentration. And finally, the whole thing culminates in step 4, inside knowledge, where the mind is completely purified and sees reality exactly as it is. Now, what is really fascinating here is exactly how the text describes that second step, abandoning the mental hindrances. It completely avoids abstract mystical jargon. Instead, it uses these incredibly practical, intensely relatable metaphors. It says that finally freeing your mind from anger, greed, and anxiety feels exactly like paying off a massive, crushing financial debt, or suddenly recovering from a terrible illness, or literally walking right out of a prison cell. This grounds the entire miracle of instruction in this tangible, massive psychological relief that honestly, any of us can understand.
All right, Section 4, a cosmic wild goose chase, the monk's ascent.
Having firmly established that the real magic happens internally, the text then hits us with this epic, honestly kind of hilarious parable to really hammer the point home. We followed this monk who gets a super profound philosophical question stuck in his head. He wants to know, where do these 4 great elements, earth, liquid, fire, and wind, cease without remainder? Basically, he's looking for the physical edge of the universe.
To find the answer, he meditates so intensely that a literal pathway to the heavenly realms just opens right up for him.
And what happens next is just a masterclass in comedic structure. The monk poses his deep question to the gods at level 1, the 4 great kings. But they're like, hey, we don't know, but you should definitely go ask the gods of the 33. They're a pay grade above us. So up he goes to level 2. They have no clue either, so they pass him off to Sakka. Sakka passes him to the Yama gods, and so on. He is literally getting passed up the celestial middle management chain all the way until he hits the absolute highest realm, the realm of the great Brahma.
So the monk is waiting, and soon enough, there are these radiant flashing lights and spectacular signs announcing the grand arrival of the great Brahma himself. The monk steps up and asks his very specific question about where the physical elements end. But instead of giving a straight answer, the great Brahma essentially just reads out his own incredibly pompous resume. His voice booms out, I am Brahma, the conqueror, the unconquered, the all-seeing, all-powerful father of all that have been and shall be. The monk very politely is like, yeah, I didn't ask who you were, I asked where the elements cease. But Brahma just dodges it and repeats his flashy title 3 separate times.
Which builds to this absolutely incredible punchline. Realizing the monk is just not going to let this go, the great Brahma literally takes him by the arm, pulls him aside so his heavenly entourage can't hear, and comes clean. He whispers, look, these gods around here think I know everything. That's why I couldn't say in front of them that I too have absolutely no idea what the answer is. Brahma admits he doesn't know, tells the monk he was pretty foolish for looking everywhere else in the universe, and sends him straight back down to the Buddha.
And that brings us to section 5, the ultimate answer, beyond the elements.
So the narrative comes crashing back down to earth, and our monk is standing in front of the Buddha. The Buddha gently tells him, hey, you've been asking the wrong question this whole time. And then he masterfully reframes it. The question shouldn't be, where do the elements cease without remainder, as if you're trying to find some physical brick wall at the edge of space. The real question is, where do water, earth, fire, and wind have no footing? In one move, the Buddha completely shifts the focus from an external, physical location in the cosmos directly to the internal nature of the mind itself.
And this brilliantly illustrates the final answer the Buddha drops, consciousness without feature, or as it's called in the original text, Vijnanam Anidasanam. It's described as this luminous state completely outside of normal time and space. Because it is totally unconditioned and detached, those physical elements of earth, water, fire, and wind, they simply have no footing there. They literally can't stick to it. The actual end of the universe isn't some destination you can fly to, even if you had immense psychic powers. It's found through the absolute, total liberation of your own mind. That realization, achieved through rigorous instruction and meditation, is the ultimate miracle.
So let's wrap up with this final provocative thought to take away from our explainer on the Kevatta Sutta. What is the true miracle in your own life? Is it the external stuff, the flashy, spectacular things we're all constantly chasing to impress everyone around us? Or is it the quiet, rigorous, step-by-step transformation of your own mind, finally freeing yourself from your own inner hindrances? Definitely something profound to chew on today. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.